Welcome to Talking Bengals, Bengals podcast brought to you by the fans and it's made for the fans. Check out Talking Bengals on iTunes, Google Play, Buzzsprout. Follow Talking Bengals on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, let's join the conversation. Hello, Bengals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of Talking Bengals. Tonight we're going to be discussing pretty much the rest of the 2017 season, which, the games are made up and what happens doesn't matter. So, Nick, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Casey. How about yourself, my man?
This is a very special episode. This is the moving edition of Talking Bengals as we're getting ready to move out on Friday. So the house is in total disarray. Kids are out of their routines, and this should just be a very interesting rest of the week. So like I said, there may be all kinds of interesting background noises on tonight's podcast. But let's just get right down into it. What in the heck has happened the last couple weeks to the Bengals? So we haven't had a chance to do a show since before the Steelers game, so we'll quickly touch on that, and then we'll go into whatever you want to call the Bears. I mean, the route, just the absolute domination by an embarrassing team. But, Nick, I'll let you start us off with the Steelers.
Well, the Steelers game, God, where can I start? I mean, I'll make it brief. You can only put so much on the referees. Yes, they made a bad holding call on Gio, saying that he held somebody when clearly there's no way he could have held him if he didn't even hold him up. It was a terrible call. I don't even know how to explain it. And it calls back a huge gain and huge field position. Whatever. Anyways, on to it. The referees can only screw up so much of the game. Now, they had bad calls both sides of the ball for both teams. And, I mean, being a Bengals fan, I'm going to say that they had more bad calls that affected the Bengals. And, okay, so we got over the refs, all right? The refs, terrible. They need some form of uniformity with how to treat these referees after they have such a horrific game on primetime TV. So let's go to the Bengals. Let's talk about Andy Dalton. Played absolutely, positively the best I've ever seen Andy Dalton play the first half. I mean, he was on. I mean, he couldn't throw a bad pass the first half. I mean, you're up 17-0 going at the half. That's what you want, especially against the Steelers. You're keeping the ball away from Big Ben. You have Andy Dalton, Gio, AJ Green, and Joe Mixon with the ball. That's what you want. You're playing against Big Ben and the Steelers. And you don't want Le'Veon Bell and Big Ben and AJ Brown or Antonio Brown to have the ball. You don't want them to have the ball. So your offense needs to continue to hold on to the ball. Second half, we went we buried our heads in the sand, stuck our ass in the sun. I mean, it was terrible. What were you thinking? You're 3rd and 2 and you pass the ball 15 yards down the field? That's terrible execution. You only need 2 yards for a first down to run the clock. It's time management. Joe Walter talks about it every Sunday. Time management. Who has the ball for the longest amount of time? Whoever controls the ball usually wins the game. Every Sunday morning, I listen to Joe Walter and Meat on WEBN 102.7, and all you hear is Joe Walter saying, time management, control the ball. What did the Bengals do? They didn't do any of that in the second half. I mean, granted, there were some key injuries, some dirty hits on both sides of the ball. George Iloka's hit he needed to not do that. He had a better chance of knocking the ball out if he would have hit him in the chest. And he actually would have probably broken the play up if you would have hit him in the chest. I mean, Juju's hit on Perfect and then standing over top of him. I mean, that kind of unsportsmanlike conduct, I mean, had that be any of the Bengals players, I would strongly think that, the referees would have tossed any of the Bengals players that did that. I mean, it could have been, heck, I don't know, Pecco when he played for the Bengals. I mean, a great guy, great football player, and it could have been Pecco who did that hit and stood over somebody, and they would have tossed him. In a Bengals Steelers game, they would have tossed Pecco. But Juju, Smith-Schuster or whatever his name is, decides he's going to thug it and just stand over top of Perfect like he did something good by ear-holing him on a freaking blind side. Now, Perfect, as dirty as he has played, they're saying that he deserved it. It's some form of karma. Screw karma. You're out there playing professional football. Joe Walter said it best. You're out there, and this is a career. You don't end somebody's career purposefully by doing something like that. Now, Ryan Shazier's hit, when he had his head down and he had a huge, I would call it at least a stinger, if not more, immediately grabbing his back. I was not hoping that he would be out for the season. I was not even hoping that he'd be out for the game, just rattled. You don't hope for somebody to for their life to be altered like that. That's just not right. I don't care who you are. And if you are hoping for somebody's life to be altered like that, you probably either A, need to go get a psychological exam, or B, need to go to church and pray about it. Probably both. So C. That's just wrong. Casey, you got anything else?
I'll try not to beat a dead horse on any of the subjects you talked about. The officiating was bad, and I admitted they had some bad calls both ways, like you talked about. But it definitely seemed like the Bengals were getting more bad breaks, but they do that to themselves. They make stupid mistakes. And that's just the biggest thing with the second half. How can you not get a touchdown? I know, the holding call hurt, reversed AJ's touchdown. But as soon as I saw Pittsburgh drive down and get the field goal right before halftime, I just started thinking, oh, here we go. And all the Bengals had to do, they had the ball after half. They just needed to come down and score a touchdown. That's all you need to do. You score that one touchdown to start the second half, and you just set the tone for the rest of the game. But they bungled it, I should say, and just couldn't get going. And, Andy Dalton, we've mentioned on this show before, he is a very C+, B- quarterback. He's not horrible. Everybody that says he's horrible is an idiot. He's not horrible. He's better than, 75% of the quarterbacks in this league. Well, 75% of the quarterbacks in this league are absolute garbage. So the fact that, he's up there at the top 75% makes him, that very C+, B- guy. But he needs a great supporting cast around him. He can't overcome an A.J. Green drop, which that's a totally different subject we may get into a little while later. But he can't overcome an A.J. Green drop. He can't overcome Brandon LaFell drops. He can't make things happen. He's tried to. I'll give him credit. He'll run occasionally. But he's just not that Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or even Ben Roethlisberger that finds a way to win a football game. He just finds a way to somehow try to lose a football game. So it's frustrating on that. You can't. I'm not putting this all on Dalton. It's not all him. A.J. Green, you pay him a lot of money. He needs to catch a football. Brandon LaFell, when one hits you right in the chest, you have to catch a football. And defense, you got to make a play to stop the momentum, whether it's George Iloka on the touchdown hit or whatever. You got to find a play to stop momentum. You've played defense. I've played defense. You got to find a play to stop the momentum. And they just didn't do that. And it's kind of been that's been one of their biggest problems since Paul Guenther's even been the defensive coordinator. They don't come up with turnovers, and they don't come up with big plays. So it's just something that concerns me. Other than 15, which, I'm just beginning to think 2015 was the exception to the rule. But, so the Pittsburgh game, very frustrating. And the big hits, those just a lot of big, nasty hits. Joe Mixon gets knocked unconscious in the first quarter. And just, I remember playing, safety or playing on punt team and something, you like that crackback hit where you just get to nail the guy in the ear hole. And so, you know what? It's not even the hit that bothers me as much. It was just the taunting. The fact that you stand over another human being like that when you know he's hurt, that just made me mad that he was not ejected. He should have been, like you said, should have totally been ejected. But it seems like, oh no, it's a Steeler guy. We can't throw him out. But that game was a lot nastier than it ever should have been. And the fact that the refs, flag one team so much and then make bad calls even on the other team, it's just an ugly game. And the NFL needs to do something about the ugly game. And less silly flags, like some of the pass interferences they call are terrible. Some of the holds they call are terrible. And then they need to be more serious about the ones that can actually injure somebody. Taunting, to me, is not a 15-yard penalty. Taunting is an ejection. That's a lack of character. You don't have any integrity. You don't have any good values at that point. So why are you allowed to play this game? You should just automatically be ejected and suspended. That taunting is that kind of penalty. And just Steelers fans just continue to show how classless they are, saying it's karma. Well, last I checked, I'm pretty sure the Steelers started this when they hurt Ickey Woods back in the 80s. And then they, let's see, it's not the first time a Steelers receiver has blindsided a Bengals linebacker. Keith Rivers, hit by Hines Ward, broke his jaw. It pretty much ended his career effectively. Nobody made a big deal about that. Oh, it was a clean hit, no big deal. Yeah. Funny, when a Bengal does it, everybody cries bloody murder. And, when Antonio Brown flopped in the playoff game like he got hit hard, that made a huge deal. But, when a Steelers receiver breaks somebody's jaw, which has happened twice against the Bengals, at least, if I can't, it might be more, but at least twice, nobody pays any attention. Or, as Giovanni Bernard was talking after the game, somebody asked him, are you expecting a letter from the league saying, that was a bad holding call? Well, why does it matter? Is it going to help us win the game now? So the league has a habit of doing that in Bengals-Steelers game too. Write a Bengals player a letter a couple weeks later and say, oh, that really wasn't a penalty, or oh, that should have been a flag on the other team. At that point, who gives a crap? But anyways, we digress. Too much Bengals-Steelers talk. It's just a sore subject. But until we get somebody in here that's going to beat the Steelers, Bengals-Steelers is just going to be a sore subject. So let's move on to let's just keep, pouring salt in the wounds of all Bengals fans. What in the heck happened on Sunday? Nick, what do you think?
I think the Bengals came out and thought, this one's going to be easy, especially since we held in there with the Steelers. The Steelers are one of the best teams in the league. The Bears suck. I think that's exactly what happened. You and I both played sports. You and I have both done that. You make the mistake of going in there and thinking, well, this team sucks. We don't have to do crap to beat them. Well, yes, yeah, you do. You get up big early, and then you don't rub the salt in the wound, and you just leave your foot on top of the throat and just make sure they realize that you're beating them and that you're going to win. You play to win. You don't play to not lose. And when you play to not lose against a bad team, you're going to lose. Just like when you play to not lose against a good team, you're going to lose. The way that this season has gone, I'm questioning my fanhood. I grew up just loving the Bengals. There was always some bright spot about the Bengals that I could really enjoy and love. But lately it's getting harder and harder, to find that bright spot. I'm an optimistic kind of person, and it's getting pretty hard to be optimistic anymore with the Bengals. Joe Mixon, he's a good running back, but he's got to be healthy and he's got to have people to block for him. And the older I get, the less and less interested I am getting in the Bengals. And the more interested I am in just turning the TV off and just not wasting my time anymore.
You're absolutely right on that. I mean, I like that last thing you said there. You're tired of wasting your time. And I remember my dad was a huge Bengals fan when I was growing up, especially, got into every game, hooted and hollered every time something happened, get mad at refs, get all this stuff. Watched a game with him this past Sunday, and, he didn't even bat an eye. Just, I don't really pay that much attention to him anymore. They've done bad for so long. He's just very apathetic. And, win, lose, they win. Oh, that's great. And that's something I've even thought about this season. When they win, you're just kind of like, oh, thank God they didn't lose. And then when they lose, you're just mad. Bitter and mad. This organization is just letting its fan base down, and it's killing its fan base. I mean, quickly go back to the Bears. I know I'm going off on a tangent. The injuries, that's everybody's blaming excuse. Players got to execute what the coaches are saying, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, injuries happen. You have to be able to overcome injuries. You have to have your B plus or B minus C plus quarterback not have a D plus or D minus average during a game. He looked horrible. AJ Green didn't make any kind of impact. It was a team just in total disarray, which is really what it's looked like since 2015. It does not look like a good football team. The Bengals have not. And, the thing that scares me the most about this is the fact that this does not guarantee that Marvin Lewis is on. Everybody says, there's a 95% chance he is. I would almost say, yes, I agree with the 95% chance. But look at how bad 2010 was. That was a year with high expectations. They should have been a successful team. And then what happened? They just crashed and burned. Miserable team. Awful, awful, awful. And he still has a job. Between 2005 and 2009, they had some bad years there between division wins. Just then, no. So what I'm afraid they're going to do is be like, okay, this isn't Marvin's fault. This is the coordinator's fault. Let's go out and hire some new coordinators. And then we're going to keep running into the same problem. This is going to be Groundhog's Day over and over and over and over again. And the problem is, like I said, the thing is, I'm not being one of those people that I would never, but, I'm not that guy that's like, oh, the Bengals suck. I'm going to be a Steelers fan or a Patriots fan or somebody else's fan. No, that's not what most Bengals fans do. They just stop watching football. And it's sad. Who doesn't love football? I love watching football. Only the Bengals like. People always ask me, so you're going to watch this NFL game Sunday? I'm going to watch the Bengals on Sunday. That's about it. That's the only team I care about. So they're killing their fan base, which is killing the game for those fans. And it's just – Mike Brown's got to change something. Really, we need to get rid of Mike Brown. That's what it all boils down to. Yes, the players have to make the plays. Coaches got to have the right decisions made and prepare the players. Andy Dalton's a very average quarterback, but he doesn't have luck. That's one of the biggest things for an average quarterback. Look at Joe Flacco. He has a Super Bowl title. Is he a great quarterback? No, he is not even as good as Andy Dalton. Not even close to as good as Andy Dalton. Why does he have a Super Bowl ring? Because he has luck, something that Andy Dalton does not. So why can't we just get a quarterback and see with another quarterback and see what else happens? Kind of off the rabbit hole there. What are your other thoughts, Nick?
I mean, I was talking to a couple of my buddies and a couple of the guys I work with, and I mean, we came pretty much into agreement that, Marvin Lewis, he may be a good scouter. He might be good at picking talent, but he's just not a coach. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that he's very good at rallying the troops, as the military would call it, I guess. I mean, morale is just terrible. It's obviously terrible. I mean, you lose to the darn Bears. I don't know, dude. This team's made me drink a lot more than what I wanted to. I mean, Jesus. It's terrible. I mean, I'm sitting there watching the Bengals Steelers game, and I'm like super excited after the first half. I'm thinking like the Bengals came out ready to play. They're gonna come out in the second half, tear it up, and then after the first 3 drives total, Bengals Steelers, or pardon me, Steelers Bengals. I mean, I was just like, just keep the beer flowing. I mean, that's terrible. You shouldn't do that. The Bengals are legitimately a drinking town with a football problem. Like, that's legit. That's not even a joke anymore. I mean, it's terrible. You're sitting there watching football. Well, you're trying to watch football, but what you're really watching is the other team just pounce on the Bengals because Marvin Lewis can't coach. Our offensive coordinator sucks. Our defensive coordinator doesn't care about going after a quarterback on 3rd and 5 and putting pressure on him. Like, what the hell are you looking? Like, you can't put pressure on Big Ben? You can't put pressure on the Bears? I mean, what was it, like 7-10 at half against the Bears? And then all of a sudden I look at the freaking score again and it's 33-7 or something like that. That's a joke. That's a gosh darn joke. Like, the Bengals don't get rid of Marvin Lewis as a head coach next year, I'm done watching football. I mean, I was almost done watching football, period, this year just because the darn players think that they're so important that their opinion matters. No, people want to watch you play football. Nobody cares about what your stupid opinion is and your opinion's your opinion. Everybody has buttholes. Nobody wants to see it or smell it. And who cares if you kneel? It means nothing. And kneeling means nothing. If you want to change something, you got to go out and do it. You got to go out and change it. People kneeling changes nothing. Going out to the community and being proactive and being positive in the community, that changes something. That changes the community positively. Not drawing negative feedback to people. You got to go out and do something positive in the community. Go out and help somebody. Go out and feed the homeless. Go out and do something positive. And for God's sake, there's a whole lot of stuff in the United States that we can do to help people, especially the veterans, the people who go out and fight overseas so that we don't have to fight at home. And we have people that are conceited and arrogant and selfish that play a stupid game like football, baseball, basketball, whatever you want to call it, and they think that their opinion matters. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole lot of build-up just waiting to come out, and the Bengals bring it out in me.
Well, you just get frustrated. It just frustrates you to your core, and it's being a Cincinnati sports fan in general. The Reds aren't giving you any hope at all. The Bengals aren't giving you any hope at all. And I mean, the Bengals were right there on the cusp, 2015. I mean, what ifs, get it, got it. But that could have been a Super Bowl year, in all honesty. Ball bounces this way. Jeremy Hill doesn't fumble. Andy Dalton's not hurt. Just all the pieces working the right way. That could have been a Super Bowl run team, or at least win a playoff game team. I mean, I feel like, if the Bengals would have won – a third or half of those wild card games. And, 05 was kind of like 15, just utterly depressing. Who knows how else to say it, just terrible the way it happened. But so counting out those two, if you beat the Jets in 09, you beat the Texans one of the two times, beat the Chargers. Oh, crap. I can't even remember who the other random loss was to in the wild card. Was it? The Colts, there we go, the Colts. You could have just beaten, at least won 2 of those games, 3 of those games. We would not be the laughing stock of the league. I mean, it's pretty bad. The Browns, I still think, aren't as much of a laughing stock as the Bengals because the Browns, everybody's like, well, it's just the Browns. That's what you expect. But the Bengals get laughed at more because they have been to the playoffs. They have had opportunities, and they can't even win a playoff game. So they're just an absolutely just depressing organization. Mike Brown doesn't give a crap what I think or anybody else thinks, but he should just step down. His whole family should walk away because obviously they don't know football. You make this big to-do about the 50th season and you put a team on the field that's the worst we've seen since 2010, I guess. So, I mean, I don't think they're not going to win another game. This was the easiest game on their schedule for the rest of the season. I don't know if they're going to win another one. And I said, the big name players that have been nagging injuries, I don't think they're going to want to come back. I honestly don't. I think they're just going to say, oh, put me on injured reserve. I'm going to call it a year. And that's pathetic, but that's what's going to happen. And it's really sucks because it's still like mid-December, so we're not quite to the end of the year where we can say, okay, we're going to figure out about a new coach here soon. So we got to wait until, after 3 more weeks of horrible football, more than likely. But, let's try to hunt for a positive here. Michael Johnson had a good game. He's up for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So that's good. Gio Bernard didn't have a bad game. If they kept running him, he could have, been even bigger contributor. So that's good. But that's about as much good stuff as I'm going to be able to hunt this week. Nick, you got any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I don't know. Bengals might as well lose so they can get a decent draft pick.
My final thought, yeah, that'd be good. I'd like a decent draft pick that actually, ends up playing on the field and it's not a receiver they're considering moving to defensive back. But that's neither here nor there at this point. My final thought is, why in the heck is soccer becoming so popular in Cincinnati? I don't get it. Soccer is like watching paint dry. I would literally rather put a strip of paint on the wall right now and watch it dry than watch a soccer game for like 2 hours that doesn't get a single goal. That's horrible. And I've had soccer fans tell me, oh, well, you like baseball, don't you? And I said, yeah. I'm like, well, baseball is the most boring sport in the world, which is always wrong. Every pitch is a different play. Every swing of the bat's a different play. Every great diving catch, even let's say I'm talking about a perfect game versus, like down to the wire, 2 shutouts till the last inning. You're going to see great defense. You're going to see great pitching. You're going to see base runners trying to get there. So, hey, that's competitive. What do you see in soccer? He kicked the ball. He kicked the ball again. He kicked the ball again. He kicked the ball again. A whole bunch of kicking the ball back and forth and back and forth. And I'm not taking away from the athleticism of some of these guys. I mean, if you can flip upside down and kick a ball into a goal, that's pretty awesome. You can hit a ball off the top of your head and aim it right to go into a goal. That's pretty awesome. But to say that soccer, the same thing that my 4-year-old daughter plays, is as exciting as watching a baseball game or even definitely not a football game. So I don't know why Cincinnati has this love affair with FC Cincinnati or whatever, but they're never going to get my money. If soccer becomes a premier sport in America, I'm moving to where I'm moving now, to Japan, because that's where baseball is still the king. Soccer's number 2. Or moving to Puerto Rico or somewhere else where baseball is the top sport and just say football never existed. But I'll get off that soapbox too. That's going to wrap it up for Talkin Bengals this week. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their week and find something fun to do on Sunday. Watch the Bengals, but also have a hobby going on in the background. Check out Talkin Bengals on iTunes, Google Play, and Buzzsprout, and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Talkin Bengals. This is going to be a quiet one, I guess, but hooday.
I guess hooday.